Welcome to Down for the Count, where we create top 10 lists of the greatest things in life and count them down slowly, one item per episode, savoring every last morsel of top 10 goodness. Are you ready?
Michael.
Yes, sir.
Let's flash back all the way to 2001.
Done.
The iPod is released.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest inventions in the history of human civilization.
Greatest, as in had one of the greatest effects on things.
Yeah.
I mean, some would say, steam engine, like that kind of thing, greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But,
The wheel-
greatest impact on things.
Tell me a little bit about how the iPod changed your life.
So I had an original iPod.
First generation.
First generation. You could get two kinds, 5 gigabyte or 10 gigabyte.
Okay. That was a lot of space.
One had
back in those
5,000
days.
songs
Yeah.
or 10,000 songs.
I remember that.
And I'm going to guess it was $499 and like $599.
Oh, wow.
Depending on the two.
Yeah.
I got the lesser of the two.
Yeah. Okay.
Up to that point, I had started to kind of burn CDs. Like that was a thing.
Right.
Because earlier that year, we gave the people in our wedding mix tapes
Yeah.
of CDs
Yeah.
that we thought of songs they would like.
Yeah.
And so I bought this and went home and probably stayed up for 48 straight hours burning the rest of my CDs so that I could drag them all to the iPod.
Yeah.
Because we were leaving on a cruise. And I'm like, I want to have this thing on a cruise so I could ignore my extended family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
But it, of course, had the white headphones, just that kind of iconic kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was about the size of a pack of cards. It was it was probably five times as thick as an iPhone and, squatty, kind of thing. And I would just look at it on the plane going, I didn't have to bring like an entire magazine of CDs with me. I didn't have to I could just, spin this little wheel and pick a song and then play it.
You didn't have to bring your book that had the zipper all around
That's
it.
That's
and
the
had
CD
sleeves with
magazine.
the CD
Exactly.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, none of that. And I didn't have to choose,
Yeah.
10 CDs or whatever to bring with me. I had hundreds of CDs
Yeah.
on me that I could listen to. I could listen to a couple songs and pick and choose. And that's really what kind of changed for me. Was at that point I would hesitate to say I no longer listen to albums.
Yeah.
But that was where I could I can just listen to these songs or these songs or whatever and pick and choose the music that I wanted to play.
So you were able to curate your own listening
Absolutely.
at will, really easily. You didn't have to stand up and change a physical thing.
No, I mean,
To go
imagine
from-
if you wanted
Yeah.
to play. Well, let's go back to the different genres,
Yeah.
and get harder as it goes back. If you had CDs and you had a 6-disc changer or a 10-disc changer or whatever, you could kind of skip around. But it was with those 6 CDs, and there was always like a gap
Right,
in
yeah.
between. The next one, you go to a tape. Tapes. You would have had to made the mix already.
Yeah.
You would have had to make the mix already.
You mean
and
a
have it.
cassette or?
Yeah, it's tape
Yeah.
cassettes going
Yeah.
backwards in
Before.
time.
Okay. Yeah.
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 And then before that, albums.
Yeah.
Screw that. You're just listening to the album all the way through.
Right.
I mean, trying to change per song, unless you had multiple turntables, which I
Or
don't know
you
anyone that
just-
had multiple turntables.
Or you just had the patience to just keep changing records.
I guess if you had 45s,
Yeah.
you could do that.
Hey,
you could
I-
kind of mix them all up that way. But
Yeah.
I'm saying it gets
Yeah.
harder and harder and harder.
Absolutely.
And then you have the wax cylinder.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Right. And then you have some guy just standing next to you singing.
But then that's the amazing playlist. They just
Yeah.
have to know every song you would
they
ever
have to
want.
know every song.
Absolutely.
That was the moment in time, musically, when people were able to make their own mixes and make decisions about what they were listening to in a way that became really personal. Absolutely, we were making mixes for years before that, especially on cassettes, on CDs, but the iPod made it so easy to do, to carry around, to send to someone. It just revolutionized music listening.
Well, yeah, iPod and iTunes. Because technically, even if you didn't have an iPod, I don't remember when, but I remember me, you, and Mike used to just say, like, what music are you listening to now?
Absolutely.
And we would email a link.
Oh, my
to,
goodness.
we'd email each other, the songs or whatever, even a list of songs so you could play them or whatever.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah.
So
and it was so easy to do. That was the thing. You
yeah.
could just make it by the mood.
Right.
Yeah.
That was also the time when MySpace was booming. That was a thing. And it was before social media.
Wither, Friendster.
The idea of having a place in the ether, and we didn't have any concept of what the internet was going to be, but this place that you can make your own was really pretty cool. And a lot of it was about what music is going to be yours.
Did you do MySpace?
I did for a short time.
I mean, I knew about it,
Yeah.
but I think it was just in that realm where it just wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew of it. I had a MySpace page, but it was music. It was, what are you listening to right now?
Yeah.
What bands are you into?
Yep.
And you followed bands on MySpace.
It was also the time when blogs were really taking off. It was the technology allowed for expression in a way that was easy 1,000-fold compared to what had come before.
And it's only gotten better.
It's only gotten better. Yeah, better and better.
Anyway.
Out of this world, this changing world of being able to curate your own listening and thinking not necessarily in terms of albums, but in terms of the songs you wanted to hear, making your own combinations of songs. Zach Braff, who was a young actor who was in his mid-20s, he had just gotten this big role on this sitcom called Scrubs. And when we did our top 10 TV shows, we actually...
Scrubs was in the conversation.
It was in the conversation, and it's one of the. In retrospect, I it hurt not to have it on that list.
But I mean, it's a fantastic show.
It's a great show.
But I think it's one of those that it really spoke to us because we were about the same age as Zach Braff.
Yeah,
and that it was like that show was made for us.
It really was, and it's freaking great.
Yeah,
so funny, but. Zach Braff had gone to film school. He had gone to Northwestern, and he wanted to be a filmmaker. He scored this great role on the sitcom, but he had written a movie, and that was really his goal, was to get this movie made. And as he was writing this movie, he also had in mind the music that he wanted to be part of each scene.
Mm-hmm.
He baked in specific songs that he had chosen that he loved to be part of the script, to be part of this movie experience.
And this is the first thing he's ever written.
First thing he's ever written. And as he loved music and loves music so intensely that the music became part of the story as he's writing it.
You have to wonder if, because I think his name's Carrie Brothers, his friend who he went to Northwestern with.
Yeah.
That I wonder if, because there's all these stories about how all they would do is go out and see music and they see live music and all this kind of thing. You got to wonder if he basically, as he's watching these bands play, if like the seeds of the script are starting to be planted as he's hearing these bands play.
Live. I mean, that's
or a friend playing it on the on their CD player, or hear it on a college rock station or whatever.
Absolutely.
That's so you almost have to wonder. yes, he obviously had the story
Yeah.
in mind, but how much did the music inform what he was going to write?
That's an interesting question, sort of which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Well, I don't
But I
know.
think-
I mean,
yeah.
yes, I think that's, but it's more like obviously he had a story,
Yeah.
in mind because it's a great story. But you have to wonder how much of it changed because of he had the music in his head.
Right. But what was interesting is because he wrote it with the music baked in and sort of chosen already, in a lot of ways, it was in the spirit of what was happening in the world. He was curating this soundtrack with songs that he loved, that were personal to him, just like you and I made these mixes on our iPods. And
you and I wrote hit movie. That
right.
didn't happen.
And in some ways, it was different in that a lot of the movies on our list, the music will sort of decorate the scene or punctuate it or become something that fits. And Tarantino is great at this. He just sort of finds what Zach Braff did is opposite in a lot of ways. The music informed the scene, and in a lot of ways became sort of like the music video of the scene. So it, as a result, it had this really intimate sort of quiet tone that you're and even there's one of the most famous scenes in the movie is when he meets Natalie Portman and she gives him a pair of headphones and says, "You got to listen to this.
It'll change your life."
Exactly, which is exactly what you just said about when you and Mike and I would exchange music. Is basically each of us was saying, "You got to listen to this," and so that was Zach Braff saying, in the script, "You got to listen to this," and that wound up being, I want to say, the most popular song on the soundtrack, that Shins song.
Oh, for sure. And it
Yeah.
catapulted the Shins into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
Like that album sold more. The Garden State soundtrack
Yes.
sold more than like all of their other albums combined
Yeah.
up to that point.
Yeah.
Then they obviously became this huge band. And, it's a good thing that Zach Braff liked indie music.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that he would have been able to get these songs if they were mainstream, gigantic songs.
Absolutely.
Because basically, without going into the whole story, one guy funded this whole movie for $2.5 million.
Right.
And there's something that where each one of these songs ended up costing them on average $2,500.
Yeah. And they contacted the artists
Yeah.
and said, "We love the song. Would you kind of sell it to us on the cheap?" And they were able to get the royalties for some of this music
because
for a few $1,000.
Yeah, but they end up giving a lot of the money on the back end of soundtrack sales.
Yes.
So they kind of said if it,
Yep.
so they didn't totally screw the
Right.
artists, which I think would have been just against. I don't know if Zach Braff could live with himself if he ended up making that deal.
Right.
But that, this, I can't remember which band when I was reading about, and they were like, yeah, this enabled us to record more, and we didn't have to gig out every
Simon
5
and
nights a week or
I
whatever.
think was
It was them. Them.
They were discovered by Garden State.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
wait a
I mean,
minute,
no one had
no.
heard of them
Yeah.
other than just don't listen to later on in our movie list.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
but so it's just that perfect kind of storm of, this is going to be different. This soundtrack is going to be different.
Yes.
The songs aren't going to be tacked on. It's going to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, I mean, obviously we have every other album, every other soundtrack on this list has music that happened after the fact.
Yes.
With the exception
Yeah.
of technically, number 10.
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
Because that music was all in it.
Yes.
That was so that's different than this.
And that's probably the other example of they could only afford so much music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And but they did kind of force the issue too and got other music that they could use.
Yep.
But they were also coming with a bigger budget and all this kind of,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
and Zach Braff was a nobody who was was on a sitcom.
Yeah.
What the hell does this guy know about movie writing?
Maybe
or
in
whatever.
its second season.
Even though now he's like done more movies than he has been in anything.
Yeah.
you know. So, but you got to think that I don't know if they could do anything like this now. Like,
yeah.
Are you? Gosh, I mean, I guess because there still is independent music.
Yeah.
I just don't hear as much of it as I used to because anyone can put their music on Spotify and and anyone can just get passed on YouTube or something like that. I'm just not into that.
Yeah.
Kind of scene anymore. I guess different stage of life, so I can't really comment.
Yeah.
On that.
But I think in those days, and came out in 2004.
Yeah.
I just remember the sort of joy of discovering
new
music, and it was just the explosion of music, of digital music, and it brought to the fore these bands, Shins,
Colin Hay.
Colin Hay.
But no, he knew Colin Hay from Scrubs,
and Colin Hay did that great acoustic version of Overkill, which is just
amazing.
Which
basically then he kind of Colin Hay basically. When Colin Hay split away from Men at Work, he was not killing it like he was when he was Men at Work.
Sure.
But he kind of credits Zach Braff with Scrubs kind of putting him on the map.
Yeah.
And then playing, with the, that song that's on this soundtrack is an amazing song.
Such a great song.
And I remember I liked Men at Work back in the day, but I didn't realize just how much an amazing musician and how great of a voice Colin Hay had until
great.
this movie came out.
Absolutely. So another example of an artist who was elevated as a result of the movie. Another one is the Iron and Wine version of Such Great Heights.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways that epitomizes the soundtrack. So many of the songs are introspective. You don't get up and dance to this soundtrack necessarily. You're going to sit and enjoy it. You're going to think. You're going to reflect. I just remember it had that effect on me for sure. And you really felt like you were hearing a mixtape. Somebody gave you a mixtape and you were like, I freaking love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's actually a couple of, and so it's one of those things, you got to think of these happy accidents that happen.
Yeah.
Because you think of this soundtrack and you can just listen to it back to front and remember the scenes in the movie because they're so integral to it.
Yeah.
But you think of, there was this list of 3 songs that were big songs that didn't make it into
That's right.
A Radiohead song, Sulk.
Okay.
Was supposed to be instead of Let Go.
Okay.
But they basically, it was originally that's the song he wanted, but then he changed his mind, and so it wasn't that Radiohead said no.
Yeah,
it was just that he decided to use the Frou Frou song.
Yeah,
in that instead. Basically instead of Last Kiss, he wanted a Fiona Apple's Paper Bag.
That's right. Yeah.
And Fiona Apple was all for it.
Yeah.
But her manager said no.
Right. Yeah.
It was that.
Nick Drake, who was an established artist from years before, but was not, and was resurrected in terms of, I remember I had never heard Nick Drake before. So Nick Drake was popular. He had a very short-lived career.
Yeah, died unfortunately. I think a car accident or something like that. Like one of those. In the early 70s.
Early
70s. Many years before.
So decades before. Yeah. But now you felt like you were discovering Nick Drake.
Oh, I was
as part of this package.
I remember hearing this, and I don't know the timing, but they used a Nick Drake song in a Volkswagen commercial.
Okay,
Pink Moon. That was a big one, or whatever.
Yeah, that was his.
And like between these two kind of things, it's like if there was a Spotify Wrapped in the mid 2000s, Nick Drake would be way up there.
Oh yeah,
on the list.
Okay,
yeah. They got very into him after this movie came out.
Yes.
And the one thing I didn't hear read a lot of in this is they do have a Simon and Garfunkel song in this.
They do.
So you got to think
Point,
that
New York.
They wonder if they just kind of did it as a favor. I mean, because this is in 2004. They're a gigantic. I mean, they're
you mean Simon and
famous
Garfunkel?
Yeah. A gigantic band that hey, there's this sitcom actor who wants to include you in this little indie, include your song in this indie soundtrack. Are you okay with that?
I don't know. I guess they might have been caught up in this idea of here's this guy who grew up in the New York area, and he's got this movie about sort of loneliness and feeling outcast and out of that's so Simon and Garfunkel. And,
yeah.
So I'd be curious to hear if there's any more behind that, but it certainly fits the soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just like everything else, all the decisions he made were correct.
Yeah.
They just fit it perfectly.
Yes. A lot of loneliness, a lot of yearning, a lot of reflection. And it struck a chord.
Yeah.
At that moment that people were thinking about this idea of making music really personal to me and mixes that are really personal. So another example of something that was great and came along at the exact right time.
Yeah. And he was influenced, like part of his thing, by 2 other movies that are on our list that I will not spoil.
I'm glad you said that.
But they're, it's so you can tell we have somewhat of a type.
Yes, we got a type
in this.
Those are coming up.
Yeah.
Those are high on the list.
And just some random facts, fun facts. They put Garden State below Rolling Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Put Garden State below Reservoir Dogs.
Okay.
Whereas we have it flip-flopped.
Oh, ours is the right sequence.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What does Rolling Stone know?
Yeah.
I mean, they had 100 some odd in their
Yeah.
list. I mean, we have 10.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, make a decision, Rolling Stone.
Pick
what are you
a
trying to do?
side.
What are you trying to do? Sell magazines?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went down this rabbit hole of a backlash against it.
Yeah.
But kind of the more just kind of saying, oh, it's too on the nose or something like that.
Right.
But then I'm just like, the more I read it, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can have your opinion. You can not like stuff, and I get it. There's lots of stuff I don't like.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have endless podcasts of stuff I don't like, mister.
Right.
But
that would be a good top 10 stuff we don't
stuff
like.
Top 10
Just-
things we don't like.
We don't like this.
Except we couldn't narrow it down to below 1,000. So we had to just not do it.
True.
What are we, Rolling Stone?
Yeah.
No, it's just kind of like, I'm like, you kind of come off as the guy who wrote a screenplay and got rejected.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems way too bitter or way too like, I read a script on how to be a snooty film critic.
What do you mean? You mean the critics who thought that the music was too on the nose?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
It kind of just sounds like, not that people didn't like the movie. You can not
Right.
like the movie.
Yeah.
But just who's pointedly or just like, oh, it's a little obvious, don't you think? Like, it's like they read a script on how to be a snooty movie critic, and that's what they did for this soundtrack. Because I'm like, first time I read it, I'm like, yeah, I can see the points. But then as I more start reading about how he picked the songs and how he and because a lot of the backlash came in like 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And then they did a kind of a retrospective 20 years later. They did a whole where they interviewed all of the bands and they interviewed Zach Braff and Perry Brothers and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think The Ringer did.
Yeah.
And so they went back and they talked to people who were against it at the time.
Okay.
And they kind of said, yeah, in looking back, it's kind of like, I get where he was going with all of this. But some of us knew that right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Other people had to take 20 years for
Yep.
it. Yeah. And you look at all those bands and what he did for them.
Yep.
Obviously, they're very talented and all that kind of
Yep.
thing. But yeah, it's cool. This is a great soundtrack and a very good movie.
Agreed. And another one right from that wheelhouse of that late 90s, early 2000s that you just see all over this list because this was the time for great curated soundtracks. And
this was it.
this
Number
was it.
7.
Number 7.
Because I realized what.
Hey, if you enjoyed Down for the Count, do us a favor, follow the podcast and leave us a rating.
And if you're feeling especially generous, write a quick review. It really helps other people find the show.
And oh yeah, tell your friends.